We're so excited to have all of our parents here and alhamdulillah to learn from your years of wisdom and experience with working with youth and children. Alhamdulillah, our theme for this event, as Ms. Allah mentioned, is the heart of homemaking for fathers and mothers. And oftentimes when we think about homemaking, we usually think about it being the work of a mother, and we think of things like cooking and knitting and preserving things. But what we discussed in our meeting is that the home is an environment where everyone participates. Fathers have a role in that home, in the vibe that they create and the energy that they bring, and the resources and the talents that they bring, as well as mothers. And then also the children, right? They create the home and the space. We felt, and what we see right now in our society is that the institution of home and this concept of home where, a family lives and generations kind of thrive, where there's grandfathers present and aunts and uncles, and this vibrancy of how things are done with ihsan, and it's kind of, in a decline and actually being kind of actively attacked. And our children are kind of being taught to be these autonomous kind of machines that have to leave the home and have to not be a part of the society that we, or the atmosphere that we create in the home, inshallah. And our intention is to go back to those traditions that we've had for thousands and thousands of years, and to kind of redefine what our role will be, and especially in how we communicate with our kids. And so we want to begin our program by kind of talking to our panelists, because I know that you all have a lot of experience in either your role as educators, obviously your role as parents, in seeing some of the stressors that are impacting our youth today. And I wanted to see if you guys can kind of talk from your experience, some of the things that you see that are impacting our home and our families today. So, inshallah. And definitely feel free to introduce yourselves. I know that Ms. Allah did, but if you want to say a little bit about yourself before you begin, feel free to do so, inshallah. Your elders.
So if I was going to have a question to answer, the question would be, what am I seeing that people are struggling with?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting because we just came back from Thanksgiving break and got to spend a lot of time with family, a lot of time with nieces and nephews, talking about different issues. And one thing that came up, we have some nieces and nephews who are visiting, and they grew up in a different culture, a different country. But they're visiting these days, and so they were in a bunch of different households watching families interact with one another. And one compliment that they gave to my siblings who are parents, which I thought spoke to a big issue, is that they were shocked at how open families are here about talking about things that are happening in society. And over they were like, we could never talk about these things with our parents, or our parents would never even admit that this problem existed because they wouldn't want us to know about it. But we do know about these problems, it's just that we're not talking about them in our home. So a lot of us are probably going to speak from our experiences with our children, and the phase that Zeeshan and I are in right now is I had to change my bio on my website because it said Hina Khan-Mukhtar is the mother of 3 young boys, but I had to change it to 3 young men because they're not little boys anymore, mashallah. So my eldest is 25, my middle one is 23, and then my youngest is 18, mashallah. So a lot of our experiences are going to be talking about young men and boys. But if I was just going to pinpoint one thing that we can expand on later, and I'd like to hear from the others as well, I think communication between parents and children, and open conversations, and children feeling safe talking about what's going on in their lives and what they're dealing with. I think that's one big thing.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, just in that. So I actually think we are cooking and knitting and preserving most important dish, which is our children. And that's, based on the prophetic advice of SalAllahu, where he says, your children are born on the fitrah, and then every parent, yuhawidanihi, yusiranihi, yumajisanihi, and then the parent molds that child, into a Jew or Christian or Asian. But we mold them into whatever we want. We mold them to, to love basketball, or to love soccer, or to love this or love that, or hate this or hate that. So we are cooking a dish, right? And so I don't think it's a shortage of good intentions, of good hearts, or of good ideas. I think every parent wants their child to be in our context, to be a good Muslim, to have good adab, to love God and the Messenger of God, ﷺ, to pray, to be good to their neighbors. And so all the parents want that, right? We all want these similar ideas. In general, we have a consensus on what goodness looks like. But then what happens, where the missing link, Wallahu a'lam, God knows best, is the methods. And because culture is changing so rapidly, those methods are also so relevant. So the way I see parenting is, how can we strategically convey those principles that we all agree upon? And good intentions are not enough. And they are important and necessary, okay, but they're not sufficient. So good intentions, good hearts, intelligence is not enough. So it's those methods that we can learn from the experience of our elders and of our community, and that wisdom, and what methods can we employ. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brother Zeeshan or Sister Amira?
I don't know if you want to go on to the next question.
I would just, that was beautifully said. Mashallah, what you're doing here is incredible, because I always say child rearing, well, when we were growing up here, I feel our parents were really focused on pouring the knowledge into the vessel. But society as a whole, even though we're products of public school, society as a whole built healthy vessels. Although it was going askew, but it still wasn't where it is now. But I think that the vessel is broken, and the vessel is the child. So it doesn't matter what you're pouring into the child if you're not building a vessel that can contain truth, recognize beauty, then it's fruitless. So this kind of communication where schools, Islamic schools, are with the parents, I think it starts here. You're building the vessel, because tarbiyah is the building of the vessel. And like Brother Mahdi and Hina were saying, there are methods, inshallah, and we can talk about those.
Yeah, for sure. Inshallah, we'll definitely get to the methods. And I think that's the key point, and I want to reserve as much time as we have for that. But I do want to say, obviously, like you said, we've definitely seen the in terms of passing on the wisdom of the generations before us. One of the things that we often see is this rise of innovation or modernity, or what's new is the direction to go. And so we're always kind of wanting to look forward. So talk a little bit about the need maybe of retaining those wisdoms. I mean, at Peace Terrace, one of the things that we're kind of gearing towards and have moved towards slowly is the providing a classical education to our children. And the reason for that is not because we want to retain them or stunt their growth in terms of innovation or the future, but rather this concept of the wisdom of the past. So maybe you all can talk a little bit about what are some of the issues and principles that people of the past may not have had that we have now in our society that impacts us. One of the biggest things that we can talk about is screens, right?
Yeah.
The newest thing.
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about the impact of that. If you guys have dealt with youth or children with those things, and what might be some of the impact of those kinds of things. But do you want to?
I would say one of the biggest ailments of modern society is individualism. We're a rights-based society versus a duty-based society, which our tradition was historically, and most Eastern traditions still are, duty-based societies. And how that translates is, the breakdown of the family, right? Because when everyone's, just by the very definition of family, it's a duty-based. It's what can I do for the family versus what can the family do for me. That individualism is built through the nuance of language. The thing I say is words build worlds, right? And so as a parent, you're constantly giving your children their worldview through how you communicate with them. In very small ways, actually. It's such nuanced ways. Life is in the details. It's not in the grand gestures. So it's not in the lecture that you're giving. It's in how you're asking them to do this or that, and what worldview you're giving them in that. But I'd say individualism is a big one. And screens are just a manifestation of that. I think they're a very tangible ailment, but the underlying ailment is individualism. But yeah, screens are definitely a huge problem for our youth, screen addiction. And I tell my students and my children, I tell them, you guys are, anytime there's a new technology, usually society kind of experiments with it, then they see the dangers of it, then they build laws around it, then they build education around it, then the culture kind of shifts. And I use cars and seatbelts, usually that's an easy one. When cars were invented, there were no traffic lights, there were no seatbelts, there was no driver's license, they were invented, and then accidents happen, and then laws. And in the 1970s, I don't think car seats were even required yet. Now they'll call child CPS on you if you don't have a car seat. So, you're the experiment generation. In 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I'm sure there are going to be laws. I know China just implemented, funnily enough, the Elm Tree. I don't know, Elm Tree has a media policy where kids can only engage with 3 hours of screen time a week. China just implemented that for its kids, for its population. So the laws countries are following, they're seeing the damage. So yeah, definitely screen awareness is a huge one, because it's breaking down the vessel. So
Sure. Anyone else?
Yeah, what was the line you said? Teaching is in the details, not the grand gestures?
Yeah.
Because it's so true, and that was something I definitely picked up on from Amira. Like, how many of you here know the picture book, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein? So The Giving Tree is a very popular picture book, and I always enjoyed it, reading it, and then I saw a critique written on it a few years ago, and I remember discussing with Amira. So The Giving Tree, just a quick synopsis, it's about a tree that loves a little boy, and the little boy keeps coming back to the tree and keeps taking things from her one after the other, her branches, her leaves, her fruit, until there's like nothing left. She's basically cut down to a stump, and he's still coming back to her for one thing after the other, and she's still giving to him. And every time the boy spends a little bit of time with the tree, she's happy. And so the critique that was written about the book that's been so popular for so many years was about how it was a terrible message, and that, the tree didn't have boundaries, and the tree didn't have, the boy was a little narcissist, and the tree was just giving and being abused and didn't recognize that she was being abused. And basically, if we read this book to our boys, we're teaching them to be narcissists and to grow up, mistreating the women in their lives. And when I talked to Amira about it, Amira's take on it was completely different, which was that this book was about the exchange of love between a mother and a son, and how a mother, that's her role, that she'll give and give and give, and without really expecting anything in return. Obviously, it's the duty on the children and for us to model for them and to teach them about how to give back, but that the ultimate message of the book was a beautiful one. And so it's in those discussions that when you read picture books like that, because what I always tell my kids, my students, is that every single book we read, now every movie, every video game, every song that you listen to, every single form of entertainment that we're exposing ourselves to is giving us a message. And nobody's writing or creating unless they are putting a message out there that they want to share with the world. And not all messages are good messages, and it's up to us to learn how to decipher those messages. And so what I used to tell my kids is that I'm not going to teach you, inshallah, my goal isn't to teach you what to think, it's to teach you how to think. Because you're not always going to be with us, but there's going to be certain parameters within which you have to learn how to decipher the world around you, look at the world around you through the eye of discernment, as they say. And so that was, to me, an example of how you can choose to ban a book, you can choose to cancel it, you can choose to be like, no, have nothing to do with it, or you can choose to engage with it with your kids, teaching them how to decipher the messaging that's given. And another dad at Elm Tree, he told us about how he couldn't stand the movie Frozen, and it was the most popular movie. Every kid and their mother was watching it. But he didn't ban the movie. He didn't tell his kids, you can't watch the movie Frozen. He watched the movie with his kids. But then he told his kids what he had a problem with. And he would ask them, well, what do you think about the lyrics in this song that say, let it go, that the rules don't matter, right, wrong, none of these matter. I'm free when I can do what I want. And, getting the kids to think about, well, what are rules? What roles do rules play in our lives? What's Sharia? What's fiqh? What would our worlds look like if we did away with all the rules in our lives? So in the end, the kids concluded that they still liked the movie. They still enjoyed it. But the dad managed to get his voice into his kids' heads, right? So, and Imam Tahir also, he said that all dads should be playing the video games with their kids, so that you know what your kids are playing and what they're being taught. So that's just one example of how to, inshallah, help our kids to decipher the world around.
For me, I think what was said here is that I felt like the biggest blind spots of well-meaning, well-intentioned parents are their children. So I was raised in a home, and because my father was praying, my mother was praying, they talked to us about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we would be Muslims. But as I raised children, I realized there's a generation gap. There's a continental gap, because they were raised in Pakistan, I was raised here. And then there's a societal gap, meaning society has advanced so much and changed between when I was a kid to now. So there's these, not just one gap. We always know the generation gap.
Yeah.
We talk to our kids and they don't get it, right? So there's these three gaps, and to not assume that because they're with you and you're nurturing them, you're doing all the homely things, that's not what's going to get the deen in their heart. And having that voice and asking them open-ended questions about a movie like Frozen, like, what do you think the message is? Really listening to them so you can understand it is really important. I never received the talk from my father, but I had to give the talk to my boys. It was a new thing, and you hear new fathers like, oh my God, when that day comes, can you do it for me? And I've also done it for other people. So we have to rely on the village. We have to rely on really, really not having those blind spots with our own children, because the children they're your children, but they're also so susceptible to what's going on in society and what's going on around them. So well-meaning parents, with blind spots and really engaging, like was already mentioned, is very, very important. And then teaching the deen with love. I mean, my first Quran teacher in Pakistan, I went for a summer, and he smacked me while I was reading Quran. And that, I can tell you that affected me, because the biggest thing that children can take is when religious people, you're asking them to adopt a religion, to learn a religion. But when people in that mode who are older than you behave badly, right? They don't behave in accordance with the Sunnah. So it's very, very important to teach this religion in this society with so much love. And that's what brought me back to the religion while I was having very young children being married. And that's, I think, part of a very important journey.
Yeah, mashallah. Jazakallah khair for that. Ustadh Mahdy, do you want to talk about maybe some of the ailments that you've seen, that you've faced in your different roles or
I think universally, Dr. Abdul Hakim Murad says beautifully, we need to live in our time with timeless wisdom. So, though, said it another way, we want to be rooted in our tradition and religion, but we want to be relevant for our time. We want to be connected to our texts in our context. Said 3 different ways. So, the ailments of today are, and the obstacles and the hurdles of today are different than they were when I was a child, 30 years ago. And so the challenges are different. But we still want to convey the same principles to those children. And so I think, again, it comes back to some of those methods that we will, that I've come to fall in love with, that I've learned from others, and that I've seen very effective. And so, that's for me the exciting, الحكمة ضالة المؤمن أينما وجدها أخذها. Wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever he finds it, he takes it. If you find wisdom in Frozen, take it. I don't know if there is any, but maybe they're perfection in art. And we need to perfect our art in our schools. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that wisdom in parenting, and coupled with the individualism of today, where I want to do it on my own and my ideas and my way, and no one, invade my space and my boundaries, and don't tell me what to do because I'm free. So that recipe doesn't work to cook the dish that we want to cook for healthy, wholesome, happy children that are ready to navigate this world as healthy Muslims. Yeah.
MashaAllah. I recently had a parent reach out to me and said, I believe that my child has a learning disability. And she's unable to focus in school, she's unable to concentrate in class, she's unable to listen to directions and follow directions. Could you please assess her for me, just to, an overview to just see if, she has a learning disability. And so I said, well, I'm not a professional. You definitely need to reach out to professionals, but I can definitely come and spend some time with you. And so I did that, and one of the things that I left her with is that, your child does not have a learning disability. Your child is spoiled. You need to, every once in a while, say no and set those boundaries. And so if we are raising a generation of children who, like you said, are growing up that I am, from the time that they're born and they're 2 years old and they learn the concept of mine and me and I, they're big nufus. And so our whole life is spent in trying to temper that down within ourselves, like that nafs, right? But in society now, we're just continuously seeing that grow and continuously being kind of feeding that flame and watching it grow more. And part of the thing that we're dealing with is an immense sense of entitlement and an immense sense of lack of gratitude, right? And I know, for example, for us, growing up, and I think for our parents' generation, it was entirely different, because even to our parents, we were kind of on shaky ground. But growing up, we had this innate sense of my father works really hard, my mother works really hard. And I remember my older siblings would cry if my mom would be in the kitchen working, and she wouldn't let them wash the dishes or do the laundry. If she was no, I want to do it myself, they would really get emotional. But we don't have that kind of sense anymore, or at least we're not seeing that within our children as we're kind of dealing with this sense of individualism. So
I'm going to jump onto the word spoiled, because we live in a place where here a lot of us have the ability to provide our children a lot of items, objects, experiences. And we like to do that as parents, to bring them joy and happiness. But there's a difference between being spoiled and pampered.
Mm-hmm.
And both the spoiled child and the pampered child both receive the same gift, but the spoiled child is entitled,
Mm-hmm.
and the pampered child is grateful,
Mm-hmm.
even though they're receiving the same object,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, is it wrong to quote unquote pamper your child if they're grateful?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If they're grateful, they appreciate it. You can. I learned from a family where they give it's called the Quran gift. For
Mhm.
every chapter of the Quran that this child learns, their parent gets them a Quran gift.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain parameters, whatever, $10, $15, $20, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It used to be go to Toys R Us, now it's Amazon.
Yeah.
But you get a Quran gift, and then they make a Quran gift list. And,
Mhm.
they memorize, 10 chapters, and they can combine one and get a bigger gift or whatever. Is that wrong? Are they being spoiled there?
Mhm.
But if if they have a sense of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
and they're grateful, then that's okay. You're making it's a tool to help them fall in love with the Quran, have a positive association and experience with the Quran,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're receiving a gift as a reward, and they're not being spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
So buying our children gifts or many gifts isn't necessarily wrong as long as it's being processed in the correct way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I agree with that. I mean, but I do. I mean, what are you seeing within your spheres, whether it's work and things like that? That sense of gratitude increasing as more materialism is increasing. I mean, I'm definitely for rewarding children in terms of I remember Auntie Tamara, one of the things that she said is, Muslims, we have our festivals, and our festivals come after 2 periods of immense trial,
That's
right? So we're definitely, working very hard during Ramadan, and definitely during the journey of Hajj. And then, and as you mentioned, this child who's working towards, I'm going to memorize the Quran, or I'm going to learn the 99 names of Allah, and I'm going to do this particular thing to please my parents. And so, and I think everyone living according to their means, is a great thing, and rewarding children and giving them things that they can nurture and kind of hold on to is great. But as the materialism is kind of increasing, one of the things that we do see is, well, I saw this thing on TV and it looks really enticing and exciting. I want it now. And then, parent goes and works and kind of gets the thing. And then a few days later, it's on the pile of the rest of the toys, So, thinking about I think we're definitely in a position to be able to buy things and give our children experiences, maybe more so than our parents were, maybe more so than our grandparents were in some cases, because of just the environment that we're in and so on. But setting those limitations within those things and learning to say no about those things, especially when we're seeing the hearts impacted by those things with that sense of ingratitude, is something that I think we have to kind of wage as parents and kind of weigh in terms of what we want to do. So just moving on into our next topic, some of the things that we had come up with is
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
So, just some ideas, because to close it out and give some tangibles. I mean, we're dealing with a lot as parents, right? We're dealing with so much. There's so much. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's suicide, there's LGBTQ, there's drugs, there's pornography. There's so much, and I'm sure there's many others I didn't mention. Okay, but we have to choose our battles, right? And we can't choose every battle, right? And there's going to come a time where holding on to Islam is holding on to a burning charcoal, and there will come a time where, and the one who holds on gets the reward of 50 Sahaba, and the one who does 1/10 of the religion goes to Jannah. When if they missed 1/10, they would get punished for it. So we're arguably in that time. So we have to choose our battles. So, you know, yes, it's not a nice feeling as a parent if I got my child a toy and then they threw it and they didn't use it 2 days later and then they want the next toy. Yeah, it's not cool. However, we want to. We can't compromise the health of the relationship of the child with the parent, or the child with God, or the child with Islam, for the sake of some $5 toy.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the idea of choosing our battles,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to have strategic compromises,
Mm-hmm.
right? In other words, getting that $5 toy, $10 toy, whatever it is, they now have what I understand what they say in Arabic, "Aynun shab'ana," "Al-ayn shab'ana." Their eyes satiated. Also in Arabic, water. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. That's what our teachers do, and the adhan goes off in the background here in class. You say the adhan, and then you continue. That's the adhan. So, there's a saying in Arabic, there's a proverb, al-mamnu' marghub, the forbidden is desired. And if we're raising our children where the forbidden is desired, and they grow up and they're 10, 15, now 20 years old, they feel deprived, they feel Islam deprived me of this, my parents deprived me of this, now they grow older, now they blame Islam for this, right? And so we want our children to be satiated. My parents I'm happy with my children, they didn't deprive me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Childhood. So when they grow up, now my parents didn't deprive me, Islam didn't deprive me, I'm a happy person, right? I'm not going to grow up and now when I'm outside the house, I'm 18 years old, let me go sow my wild oats, and now I'm free, let me go watch every single crazy movie, let me go drink everything and try everything and do everything because I was never able to do anything in my youth, in my childhood, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So the idea of choosing our battles strategically is something that we have to face. We have to choose, as parents. So I'm challenging the notion of how right it is or wrong it is. That toy is a little bit abused.
Yeah.
Maybe a little wasteful.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the compromise we somewhat need to make in our context here, living in California in 2022. So we raise happy children that are not depressed, have anxiety, go to drugs, go to smoke, go to this, go to this, go to this.
Oh, absolutely.
I had to work for my chores and then buy my toys myself. And there's a very transactional part of it. But then I think with our children, it was like, I think Hina read a book. It was like, at 2 years old, your child wants to help you, and they can, use a fake broom or one of those little brooms.
Yeah.
And they can also sort laundry by color.
That's right.
So those are very interesting things, because then the child at a very early age is learning to contribute to what the family's doing. You're a team. It's not, your parents are not your slaves, right?
100%.
So you're a team, and then the 5-year-old can do the dishes and set the plate, make the juice, and then the older one can do. There's gradations of what they're able to do. But as you raise them and they want a toy, you say, "MashaAllah, you're a good kid. You can have that." But because they're part of the team, it's not as transactional as how I had it.
Exactly.
Right? I had, go wash the car, mow the lawn, blah, blah. I had these checklist things to do so I could buy a 10-speed bike. My father could have bought the bike for me. But at the same time, if he had said, "MashaAllah, you're helping out, you're a good kid, here's the bike," after, several months, I think that sits better with the child in the society we're in.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think there's that middle ground of like having your children contribute to your family needs as a team. And then as they get older, like we're seeing, it's just kind of you don't have to shock it. It's just kind of natural that they have that ownership over the house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
inshallah, whatever's best.
To build just on that a little bit, and I think being spoiled is words. It happens with words, not with actions, and what you're rewarding specifically. But even like building a family where it's a team. I noticed myself asking. I have 3 daughters, and I would tell them, "Come help me in the kitchen," and they always say, of course, they don't say no. Then I realized and this is what I mean by words build worlds. When I would say, "Come help me in the kitchen," what I'm implying, what's the unsaid thing? Because every statement has an unsaid paragraph. What's the premise behind that is, this is my job and you're helping me with my job. No, you're not. This is actually your job. I'm helping you. So I would say, well, let's clean the kitchen together. So I stopped asking them for help and would ask them, do you need help? I can work with you. So just kind of shifting that, like, come do this with me is not come help me, unless you actually do need help. When I need to make my bed, I'll say, hey, can you help me make my bed? Because that's actually my responsibility to make my own bed. Even when I had their brother, which they really wanted, I said, okay, on one condition, I'll help you when you guys need help. But he's yours. But no, it's that. It's you spoil kids with words, with expectations. It's how you present the gift. Because gratitude, it's not something that, it's a byproduct of resilience. People work towards gratitude without realizing that it takes foundational work before you get to gratitude. You can't gratitude doesn't just manifest. You have to have some foundational things as a human. And one of the strongest ones, and one of the most important ones, is resilience. Because if you're not resilient, you can't hear the word no. You can't, you're presented with too many choices, because choices equal disappointment. Then you can't be grateful. There's just no way. And you're spoiled. You are therefore spoiled. And resilience is also, there are methods, and that's what tarbiyah is, I tell my kids sometimes, it's my job to make sure that you're uncomfortable. They're like, Mama, you're supposed to make us comfortable. No, because only the people that love you most can make you uncomfortable successfully, so that when you're older, you learn how to be comfortable. That comfort comes from within, not from without. So it's just that's where spoiling. It's not through materialism as much as how that materialism comes into their household, into their hands, and their relationship with the material. So,
Absolutely. No doubt about it. I absolutely agree
with gratitude. I'd also say that it's embedded in the prophetic du'as, and so it's important for me as a father to translate the du'as for them in their 5-year-old language, right? In their 7-year-old language, and their 3-year-old language, because they can say this du'a for 20 years and never know what it means.
Exactly.
So the du'a for food, it intrinsically has gratitude. That this food that you gave me,
Exactly.
The du'a for clothes, kasani, that you clothed me. And so also, like if someone gives their child a toy, you can encourage them, do sujood shukr. Do sujood shukr, and then they go bow on the ground and they say, thank you Allah, shukran Allah, shukran Allah. So in that moment, you're using the prophetic du'as and the prophetic methods to imbue in them this shukr, right? And to remind them that, when you give your child medicine, you say, is the medicine curing you, or is Allah curing you? Does the medicine cure you? No. They're 4 years old. Is this medicine curing you? No. Then who's curing you? Allah. Then you give them the medicine in their mouth. So, and these are all Islamic concepts, Islamic aqidah, Islamic hadith, Islamic du'a.
Well, it's almost time for prayer, but just one last question on this, or one kind of comment on this. Do you guys want to, maybe some of you want to tackle the roles of mothers and fathers, or men and women within the home in society today? There just seems to be so much confusion, so much mixed messaging. And so as parents, we're often left with, what is the dad's job, and what is the mom's job, and how do we define those roles, and how do we create those spectrums? So what are the teachings, obviously, of our Prophet ﷺ, but also wisdoms of our past.
Yeah.
Right? And some of the things that we're seeing today is definitely a lot of confusion, a lot of mixed messaging around those kinds of things. So I don't know if anyone wants to talk about that. Are there defined roles?
Absolutely.
When are we gonna break for prayer?
10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah, we've got 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We go 15. We got 15
Yeah,
minutes
yeah,
to tackle this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to I mean, yeah, there's definitely roles. If that's the question, there are definitely male and female roles. I think everybody has a responsibility in the household. It's not about male versus female, mother versus father. It's about how you work together as a team. The child, the elder, the father, the mother. It was really nice in the past because it wasn't the household wasn't about the woman and the man. It was about a family. There were elders there. There was the elders of the elders. I mean, it was just so beautiful. It was an upward-facing society, not a downward. Now we're very child-centric, right? But it's really important that as a mother, I mean, I find it's important for my own daughters and for my own sons to show that there are roles and to honor those roles. It doesn't mean that men don't work in the household and women don't work outside of the household. That's not what it means. It's actually just I think people lose their sense of role and duty in a household with their words. Again, it just goes back to words. It's not about, like, I want my daughters to see me, I know this can be so controversial, but even though I know I can go somewhere, it's not a question of whether I can or can't. It's out of adab for this partnership that I ask. They need to witness that. Otherwise, it's just like, well, it's my right, versus my duty. So it is important to reinforce roles in the household, especially considering everything that's out there, and honoring our daughters and honoring our sons. Growing up, I had 4 brothers, and I'm an only girl. So that can translate into a nightmare because, like, you could be serving your brothers, right? But that didn't happen, alhamdulillah, in my household. I mean, my father treated me like my name is literally princess. That's how it translates. But, I mean, and I served in my household, but, like, my brothers took out the garbage, for example. They cleaned the cars. It's not that I couldn't, but I didn't have to, right? So honoring females and honoring males through their roles is really important. And then modeling it as parents through respect and through language.
I'd love to hear what Zeeshan and Hina have to say.
Yeah.
Quick, I'm just going to tag on to Amira. So I think it's cool for the parents to tag team. Meaning I uplift mom in front of the children, she uplifts dad in front of the children.
100%, yeah.
That way it's more honorable. It's not like me uplifting myself in front of the children and her uplifting herself in front of the children. Another way is, let's say there is a moment of tension with your discipline or something between the father and the child. I'll go to Amira. Go tell her to come say sorry. Tell her. Kiss her dad. And likewise, if she's having something, Amira come to me and say, "Hey, I had this moment with so and so. Go tell her to come." So if I tell my daughter, "Hey, go, kiss your mom's hand and tell her sorry," it's beautiful. If she says the same thing, go, So it's this tag team. Someone once said that we love Allah the most, Rasul Allah, and then mom, and then dad, with love, and then they say, we obey Allah, Rasulullah, dad, and mom. You can feel free to take it or not take it. But which one is well, hold on, but I love mom more. So it's not like this one is higher or this one's lower, because you love mom more, right? According to the prophetic hadith, who's most entitled to my care and my devotion, my love, your mom, and then who? Your mom, and then who? And your mom, and then who? And then your dad.
Yeah.
So it's not fair.
That's a fair statement.
Right? But then obedience sometimes, is the father the leader of the house. And so, but if the father is implementing that in his house, it doesn't work. But if the mom is the one supporting that, honor your father, obey your father, listen to your father, then it works. And then it's honorable. And then it's, it's smooth, it's gentle, it's lovely. But if the father is self-imposing it, then it doesn't come off right.
Yeah.
So the tag team is so important.
Yeah.
It can't be like, well, I disciplined my child, and then mom comes and says, "Why'd you do this to so and so? How dare you? You know what?" And then all of a sudden you belittle the father, or vice versa. Why'd you say this? You can't do that. You're undermining each other.
Mixed messages.
Mixed messages. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear again.
No, that's exact. Ditto.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, language is, there's this concept that dad works 8 hours and then the mom's work is never done. There's this paradigm in society that, we do 8, but they do 24, so it's not fair. So, but the work and the quality of work and the slings and arrows that you take in each job are very different. I mean, I have a commute, I have a boss, I have work that needs to be done, I have pressure, I could get fired. A woman has the right to be supported, the days are longer, right? The days are longer. So there is a balance there, like I said. In one sense, we have one quality that is given to us, and another quality, we have a responsibility with that quality. And so, I mean, we started out as friends, but we've always maintained a friendship, and I never undermine her feminine nature. I have 3 boys, so we don't have the luxury of a daughter. We tried. The third one was supposed to be a girl. We let him know that. But, we never undermine our role. So it's very important for, your dad, if the language is, I have my hands full over here, and your dad won't even pick up the cup, and he won't even do the laundry. He knows the washing machine's full of stuff. If you're using that kind of language around your children, you're emasculating your husband because you're treating him and his role with contempt. You're not seeing the walls and the shukr and the water and the washing machine. You're only seeing the load, right? You're only seeing the load. That's very myopic. And so that's why shukr is such, it's the root, shukr and love is the root of everything. And so when you think that laundry is there, but then the washing machine and the water and the bills come from, you won't have that attitude. But what's really important, that's kind of a tangent, what's really important is honoring the person by giving them the benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, if he didn't see it, I just need to ask. He came home, he could be thinking about a terrible day. His mind is not on, oh, look, the laundry machine's full. That's not how we operate. And so giving each other the benefit of the doubt, I think, is really important. Using the language, the words build worlds, that's beautiful, mashallah, because, that's up. And then I had 3 things that my wife knew I'm really good at. I'm good at chopping. I love using the knife. I think I'm a samurai. And, I like to read to the children because a lot of times I wasn't read to, and I have exposure to books through my children, which I learned a lot through. And the other thing is I like to bathe them and put them in bed. So she knew that these are his strengths. These are the things. I'm not going to ask him to do these other things. I'm not going to ask him to cook. He can chop. And then she knew that during that time, those things he'll take care of it. I'll get my break. I'll get my downtime. And again, it was like, oh, can I do this with my friends? Can I do that? It's having that respect with each other as a teamwork. So, just adding on to what was already beautifully said.
Oh, I honestly think everything was said. Yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember growing up, I never saw my parents fighting, like ever. I don't think there's one time when I witnessed an argument that they were in. And so I just thought they just got along really well, and that there was never any tension between them, ever. And so as an adult, I said, I talked to my mom one day, and I was like, how did you guys have this connection? You never fought. And one of the things my mom just started laughing and saying, we just never fought and argued in front of you. And it was very eye-opening, but I think connecting it back to what you said is, I don't think they ever wanted us as children to witness them dealing with some of the adult things that they were dealing with, or some of the pressures of life that they were dealing with. And so we never got the sense of, not only like discord within the home, but also disrespect towards each other.
Yeah.
Language that was used that might have been disrespectful, or tensions that might have been within their marriage that might have been, impactful. And so one of the things that, practice that I want to put, that I implemented in our family and in my own household was this concept of we're not going to argue in front of our children. And it was just something that really, I think, is a positive thing, kind of the wisdom that we took away from our parents, mashallah. So I absolutely agree. I think defined roles, when you study the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and you see the examples of who he was at so many different spectrums of roles, and then you hear the fact that he also, took care of his household and was at the service of his household and maintained his own chores and things like that. It's mind-boggling to see that level of, mashallah, beauty emanating from him.
And I think our tradition doesn't boil down the human to their utilitarian value, and that's like even the idea of gender roles. I'd like to even the premise of that is that we're all very
utilitarian.
The
Exactly.
society is very utilitarian. We have responsibilities as females, and we have natural characteristics. The female, of course, there's a spectrum for everything, but the female and the male, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has imbued the male with characteristics and imbued the female with characteristics. And these characteristics lend to certain types of responsibilities and roles. And they can cross-mingle because all of us have that whole spectrum, but girls tend to be, with mercy, and we have more rahma. I mean, that is in the biology of a female, the mercy, the rahim, right? And men, they have like the futuwa and the responsibility and the like honoring and the safety and so I mean, one metaphor that I love is men are like the palms that carry the household within, and they carry the woman, right? They're there to, like, my brothers, they're my honor, and I feel it, they're not my competition, and neither am I theirs.
Exactly.
And I think because we're in such a utilitarian society, everything is competition. Everything is, one-upping the other. And unfortunately, that's bled down into the family. But historically, it wasn't that whole thing of gender roles didn't even exist as a concept. And that's I think a lot of the things we're being pushed up against in today's ailments, like if you're talking about modern ailments, is that these concepts didn't exist. They didn't even exist linguistically. I mean, Arabic is such a beautiful language, but it was my aunt. She was just like, "Oh, you want to save your kids? Just don't teach them English." I was like, "Okay, we live in America." She's like, "Try to say self-care in Arabic.
Yeah.
It sounds silly." Or personal space, These these words, they don't exist, right?
Self-service.
Or self-service, or self-care. All these things, all these concepts. So gender roles, it translate that into Arabic, So it's not about that. It's beyond that. So
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a very beautiful way to think about it.
I think one of the things watching her have babies, and there's this quality that Amira mentioned, which is I could be asleep and then she can hear the child in the very, very lowest tone cry and get up and go, right? And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you have this radar that does that? And then at the same time, the men were the ones that could have an argument in the home or be displeased with something that was going on, and then still go outside and, in the old days, track an animal and shoot the arrow true, cloud out all those other things that are happening. So in the village days, we had this separation of duties. You had the CEO and the CFO. One's good with money, one's good with selling, right? Every company has that. But yet we don't have this differential. This modern society is telling the family unit, don't have these differential roles. Everybody's got to play everything and be an all-rounder. You don't want your engineer doing the accounting, right? You don't want to invest in a company that would do that. And so, we have to honor these special abilities that we have and notice the beauty in them, even though everything comes with a double-edged sword. So that emotion and that nurturing comes with a negative. And our being able to block it out comes with a negative. Like, oh my gosh, he doesn't see things.
Yeah.
You know, those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
we're not your girlfriends. I mean, we can process, but at some point we just kind of stop.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, and so, that's all we have time for.
Yeah, inshallah. So we're going to go ahead and take a break for prayer, inshallah, and then when we come back, inshallah, we're going to talk about what does going back to the source look like, and what does a home with harmony and peace and love and compassion and all these beautiful, noble qualities actually look and feel like, and get into some of the solutions and some of the ideas and some of the methods that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's really important for us to leave with something tangible for us to be able to implement in our homes and within our children and within our families, inshallah. So I'm looking forward to the second part of the discussion, to get to some of those methods and some of those solutions, because just having the knowledge of doing something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to carry it out. And as Ustadh Mahdy mentioned, we definitely need to know the how. And I think one of the things that you said in terms of like the three gaps that we have, it's not just generational, right? It's not just like adults, child, but so many other factors that we're kind of dealing with. So it's important for us to be able to have those tools to address our children and to make sure that our homes are healthy, inshallah. Before we get that, one of the things that kind of came up from my discussions during our break was addressing maybe single parents as well in our conversations, and making sure that we're kind of maybe touching on some points of single parent homes. And then also, like, when we're talking about roles, sometimes, like, in reality we don't have choices around certain things. So it's really great when you have a choice to just be a mom at home and raise your kids and not have to worry about going and supporting your family. But sometimes we definitely don't have those choices. And so talking a little bit about that, because when it's ideal, where everything is defined, obviously it makes it a lot easier. But sometimes when those, you might have a mom that's the breadwinner, that's the main breadwinner in a home, and you might have a dad that's not. And so in these points of conflict, sometimes, our expectations kind of set the tone around and can create additional conflict. So maybe getting a little bit into that. In terms of, like, not necessarily having a choice around certain things. So anyway, going back to our topic, what does going back to the source look like? What is a home with harmony and presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and remembrance of the Prophet SalAllahu, and all those ideals that we want in our homes? And I agree with Ustadh Mahdy, the lack of intention and goodwill is not the issue. How do we achieve that? How do we begin that? How do we begin that journey today? And for those of us, those of our audience members who may not be, in that perfect situation yet, how do they kind of come to terms and begin anew? So some ideas around those things, inshallah, would be really great.
I would touch on something that Brother Mahdy had mentioned earlier about how the forbidden is desired. One of the best pieces of advice I feel I was given by an elder is, she said that for every haram that you stop your children from, you have to give them 2 halals that they can enjoy. So that awareness that parenting requires a lot of creativity, it requires generosity, it requires going the extra mile, like we were talking about, like paying more than you may have wanted to pay for an experience for your children to have a positive association with Islam. And so, because there's so many things pulling at our kids in society, it's really, really important that what their experience with the deen is, that it be very positive and be very joyful. And we teach our children to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fear Him, but the early years, the majority of the focus, I would say, should be on the love. there's a time where you make your kids aware of the majesty of Allah and aware of the consequences and repercussions and real fear and awe. And that especially has to be there in the teenage years. But the early years when they're little, preschool, toddlers, preschoolers, elementary school, the whole approach to the deen, I think what I've seen successful with many families is when it comes from a place of joy and it comes from a place of love. I know.
The story of asking Shamba if he missed Halloween.
Oh, yeah, and so like one example of being creative is like our community, I don't know how people here feel, but I'll just say that in our community, the like-minded families pretty much came to the conclusion that they weren't going to celebrate Halloween and they weren't going to, support that in their households. And so everyone can have their personal opinion on the matter, but that's what it was in our community. But instead of just telling the kids, oh, Halloween's haram, or we don't celebrate Halloween, instead being creative and coming up with an event on October 31st that wasn't called Halloween, and but was full of joy, creativity. Sang nasheeds. We were on a ranch, did bonfire, did hay rides, did face painting that wasn't morbid or ghoulish or macabre, and for years that was the alternative that we had for Halloween. And then when my son went to high school, and then he was in public high school, and he had friends who were celebrating Halloween and going trick-or-treating. I asked him once that, do you ever feel that you missed out? Do you ever feel like this important rite of passage, all these kids are doing this, that you didn't get to experience it? And I remember that he actually thought about it. He said, because we used to call that event November's Eve. So he said, if I didn't have November's Eve, then maybe I would have felt that way, for sure. But I always had somewhere fun to go, and when the neighbors or other kids would ask me, what are you doing? I was able to say, oh, I'm going somewhere fun, we're going to be doing something fun. So I didn't feel I missed out. And what that points to is that, because I recently read something that a scholar wrote about having a conversation with his child about Halloween, and his child's still pretty young, his emphasis was on his kid being a strong enough Muslim to stand up to everybody and tell them why we don't celebrate Halloween. But the truth of what I've seen, majority of kids, is they don't want to proselytize. They don't want to go around trying to convince anybody of that their way is the right way. They just want to fit in, and they want to be doing something fun. They want to be able to prove they're doing something fun. And so for the most part, is like if we can give our kids alternatives that they can be proud of and feel like they're not missing out on, then inshallah, hopefully. And another piece of advice that was really, really good is we actually asked Abu Tarif, Mahdy and Amira's uncle, that, with all the craziness out there, everything that's going on, how do we protect our kids? Like the whole world just feels upside down right now. And he said, with every storm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, every hurricane, every tornado, every typhoon, he's created the eye of the storm, the center, which is calm and peaceful, and things aren't swirling around and aren't crazy. He said you have to make your home the eye of that storm. Absolutely. So that no matter what's going on around you, like the kids have a solid base where they're seeing things peaceful, and they see Islam being practiced, they see Islam working, they see joy. So inshallah, if those are the nouns that they're associating with their deen, then inshallah, we want them to hold on to the deen because they recognize it as the truth with a capital T, but we also want them to see that Islam benefited them and that it worked for their families.
Absolutely.
Going off Amal Tarif and the single parent, that because we're talking here about parenting, and we're assuming that every household has two parents, and that's not the reality for many households. And Amal Tarif, my uncle, he was married to my mom's identical twin, and she passed away when her children were 13, 11, 7, and 8 and 6. And they were raised by a single father for a very long time. And subhanAllah, from all the cousins, they're probably the healthiest, most well-adjusted from all of us. And what I learned through that experience and what my mother taught me is that First of all, parents are just, we're like vessels that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for these human beings through us. But when He removes a vessel, doesn't mean He's not still providing in other ways. And I saw that through my cousins. The Prophet ﷺ was raised by a single mother. Many of our prophets were. Some of our greatest scholars were raised by single parents. So parenting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing for your children through you. And sometimes it's going to be you by yourself, sometimes it's going to be you with a partner, and sometimes, inshallah, it's you with a village. But to just really remember that, having that kind of tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And something I learned from Hina is that, as much as you do and you do and you do and you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the turner of hearts. All these children, they actually belong to God. And everything we do can the outcomes are not in our hands. So, may Allah protect these kids and protect our parents, protect all of us, and protect these marriages. Sometimes a child growing up in a single household is infinitely more healthy than one in a broken marriage. So, protect these marriages, protect all of this, because, we have a lot, there's a lot for going against our kids, but yeah, may Allah protect them. So I just wanted to put that out there, that being a single parent, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His hand is there with you. So you might be better off than two parent households. But yeah, so just wanted to add that.
Do you want to talk about a joyful home?
Yeah.
So I prepared for this, and so I'm going to share, with your permission and your blessing, I'm going to share what I'm really passionate about sharing with parenting, and I'm going to share in 3 or 4 minutes 20 methods, right? So if you're the note taker, take notes, because these are things that I've benefited from tremendously. So it's literally 20 different bullet points. So Bismillah. First of all, dua, 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 and then after that dua, and then after that dua, after that dua, and then after that dua. If I just said dua until the end of the session, we would be better off than anything else.
Yeah,
I'm serious. Like the best strategy is dua. Like before you want to go and help, dua, and then after that dua, because Allah can take care of your child's heart, or that flaw, or that trick, or that thing you want him to do or stop doing. Like it's like, Allah, I can't do it, but you can. Ya Allah, I can't do it, but you can. Anta qadir. So dua is so critical, so critical. So number 2, there's this really cool concept. It's called the 4 quadrants with parenting. It's on 2 axes. It's firmness and kindness. And so the first quadrant is high kindness, high firmness. Then there's high kindness, low firmness. There's high firmness, low kindness, and low firmness, low kindness. We want to be in high firmness, high kindness, to develop and raise the healthiest, happiest children who feel loved and who are also mature and have adab. If we have high kindness, low firmness, they're loved but they're spoiled, they have no adab. If we have high firmness, low kindness, then they're disciplined but they're resentful and they don't have healthy relationships. And then low firmness, low kindness, there's no adab, no discipline, no love, right? So that's 2. So, and then number 3, the child is not the boss. This is very important. You need to decide that before you even have children, or when your child is like 1 year old. My child's not the boss, because when they throw a tantrum when they're 1 year old and 1.5, you have to believe my child's not the boss. If you don't believe that, parenting is going to fail. If I don't believe that I'm the boss and I let my child be the boss and I need my child's permission, my parenting will fail. I cannot teach them anything. Not when they're 2 years old, not when they're 5, not when they're 10, not when they're 15. If the child's the boss, I fail. And I only have like 2.5 minutes, so I can't get into all these things. Okay? Right? Number 4, if a child expects no, it's healthier than expecting yes. Why? Because if they expect no, then when you say no, then you met their expectations. And if they get yes, then they're so excited and happy. Now, if they expect yes, then when they get yes, okay. And if they get no, they're unhappy. So you set them up, if they expect no, you set them up for a satisfaction or happiness. If they expect no, you set them up for satisfaction or unhappiness, disappointment. You see? So it's strategic, so they should expect a no, right? Okay, next is this whole group, elders, cousins, aunts, uncles. Don't get involved. I'm not the best parent, you're not the best parent. Let elders do their thing, let uncles do their thing, let aunts do their thing. Even if they're going to feed them 5 pounds of chocolate, it's okay. Okay? Even if grandparents are going to feed them, it's okay. Even if they're going to let them watch something that you don't really love, it's okay. These are all convert into teachable moments. Right? And then it shows, number one, it shows that you're teaching them have adab to elders. Because you don't want to undermine that. Because if you undermine that, one day they're going to disrespect you as an elder. When you're their grandparent, or you're the grandparent. Okay? Like, for example, one time, me and Amira, we had a 4-month-old baby. We were going to Chicago. My baby was 4 months old. I looked on the plane. I looked at my wife. I was like, you know what Grandpa's going to do? All this baby's had was nursing, mother's milk. Grandpa's going to feed it. The moment we get there at midnight. And I was like, you know what we're going to do? And we have a deal that we honor grandparents and we don't get involved because we don't want to sever those relationships and build tension and all that. So we let them do what they're going to do. We get there at midnight, of course, grandma cooked the feast. It's like 1 a.m. There's this feast. There's yabra, yabra, stuffed grape leaves. So my dad's like, I don't know, give me it. He takes this 4-month-old off mother's milk. He takes the yabra, the stuffed grape leaves. He's like, come here, my boy, come here. The first thing he ever had was yabra as a 4-month-old, right? And then he took the piece of lime. He's like, come here, my son. And me and Mamita are like, right? And we didn't say anything. And my daughters are all learning because my daughters are older. And they're observing us being silent, observing us respecting others. And then it's okay. The 99% they're at home, they're with us. 1% they're with others. That's fine. Okay, all right. Number 6. Okay, number 6. This is really cool. This is about making moments, making a normal moment into a memorable moment. So your son is not great at cleaning. Okay, one day he cleans something. All of a sudden, you make that into the most majestic moment in the universe. Oh my God, mashallah. And then you mention it a day later, you mention it 2 days later, you mention it 3 days later, you mention it a week later. All of a sudden it builds him. It defined him. It defines who he is. And now all of a sudden, a month later, now I'm a cleaner. I clean my room. Right? So you made it into a moment. I'm going to go faster. Now number 7, part of that is to do reinforcing stories. What does that mean? So we'll be in the car, our child's in the back, and we'll be talking to each other, knowing that they're listening, but acting like we don't know they're listening. And I'll say, hey, do you know today, so-and-so, they cleaned their room all by themselves. I went in there, it was so clean. Of course they're listening, but I act like they're not, And then she knows what I'm doing. And she's like, oh, wow, what did he do? Yeah, the closet was so clean, the drawers were impeccable, his clothes were hung up. And so all of a sudden you're talking about it in front of him. Now be careful, if you do the opposite and talk about negative characteristics, you're doing the same thing. You're reinforcing the negative. Okay, so that's 7, 8. Okay, next is, the natural group. We already did that. Okay, one-on-one trips, very healthy. You have more than one child, take them one-on-one. Go have sushi with them. Take them out to the park alone. If you have to travel to Florida, to Washington, take one-on-one trips. It's very healthy. It builds the bond. Next, we talked about this, translate du'as. These are prophetic prayers. They're not from us. They work. One time I translated the du'a for clothes for my 5-year-old or something. And I was like, thank you, Allah, for giving me this clothes even though I don't deserve it. And then she was like, I do deserve it. And I was like, that's the nafs. You see that nafs? He goes, and we had a conversation, right? That Allah gives us this. We can't. So, but translating du'as of the car, of leaving the house, of food, everything, translating them all before the du'a before you sleep, they're from the Prophet ﷺ, so they shape paradigms, right? Okay, next, we kind of mentioned this, a healthy discomfort. Discomfort is healthy because you're building resilience, they don't have this entitlement, etc. We talked about that. Next, don't give choices, because choices, again, is disappointment. So it relates to healthy discomfort. You're going to go buy a sandwich, buy 10 chicken sandwiches. Don't say this one gets no lettuce, this one extra tomatoes, this one double fry the bun, this one without it. Because then, basically, they have all this criteria to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
They have 10 criteria to be satisfied with their sandwich instead of one chicken sandwich. And so you're setting them up. I need a customized sandwich to be happy. And if I don't get it, so what's going to happen when they're 20 years old and they don't get what they want? You create a monster, and then whenever they're uncomfortable with something, they want to change it. I'm uncomfortable with my shoes, change it. I'm comfortable with my sandwich, change it. I'm uncomfortable with my jacket, change it. I'm uncomfortable with my wife. I'm uncomfortable with my religion. I'm uncomfortable with my school. Let's take you to another school. I'm uncomfortable, so we don't do that. No. We embrace discomfort and we bring out the best. Okay. Okay. Now, and then finally, dhikr traditions. Dhikr traditions. Dhikr traditions. So in your home, do dhikr traditions. Friday before Maghrib, do salawats for 2, 3, 4 minutes. Read kahf together when they're really young. Okay? And when they get older, they'll be a part of their house. Okay, now that was number 13. So the 7 more, I said 20. The 7 remaining have to do with what happens when my child does something wrong, the discipline, the correcting. Okay, now these are really cool methods on doing that. Okay, number 1, dua. Okay, number 2, it's a really cool thing. We don't do the blame game. Don't get in the blame game. Who did this? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? So, for example, you want to teach them how to clean the bathroom. Don't say, why'd you do this? How many times do you have to do this? Why'd you... Just call your children, go in the bathroom, and say, hey guys, I want to show you something. Put the toilet paper roll, good, fix the towel, do the curtain, wipe the sink. Looks nice, right? Okay. 2 days later, the same thing happens. Hey guys, I want to show you something. Go back in the bathroom, fix the towel, wipe the sink, close the curtain, put the slippers. 1 week later, same thing happens. Fix the towel. There's no blaming. SalAllahu alayhi wa sallam, Anas ibn Malik said, I served the Prophet 10 years. He never told me, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? 10 years. Okay? Okay, now number 3 with disciplining is just model it. Don't blame, don't correct, don't yell. So even when they're 2 years old, for example, one time my son was in the back of the car. He wanted me to open the window. Baba, open the window. And he was like yelling. I was like, whoa, what's this? So what we did was, I was just like, Baba, ممكن تفتح الشباك? Baba, can you open the window? And then I would say, تكرم عينك. And then I would say, Shukran, Baba. So, Baba, can you open the window, please? Yes, sure, my darling. Thank you, Baba. I'd open the window. Next day, he yelled, Baba, open the window. Baba, ممكن تفتح الشباك? تكرم عينك. Shukran, Baba. I open the window. Third day, he yelled, Baba. And I just say it out loud. Baba, ممكن تفتح الشباك? تكرم عينك. Shukran, Baba. And I open the window. Fourth day, guess what he said? Baba, ممكن تفتح الشباك? Boom, for the rest of his life, he learned it. That's it. I didn't have to give a lecture. Don't yell, ask nicely. I just modeled it. Don't yell, ask nicely. Why do you do this? Just model it. Okay? Now, number 4 with disciplining is this really amazing thing. It's called try again. Mm-hmm. And this is so beautiful. And so, let's say your child does something. Let's say they place they serve you a cup, or they give you something. When they give it to you, they throw it. Instead of saying option 1, you can say, "Don't throw it. That's bad adab." All you have to say is, "Try again." They come, they take it again, and they give it to you again. No lecture, no blame, no negativity, and they practiced it, and they had to figure out what they needed to try again. So it becomes internal. It's such a powerful tool. And it can be anything. They're noisy, they're running down the stairs. Try again. They go up the stairs, they walk down softly. No lecture, no yelling, no negativity. How many times did I have to tell you to go down the stairs? Avoid all of that. Try again. And maybe they ask you something. Why do we have to do this? Try again. Baba, is it okay if we do that? So, but they had to, number one, you avoided the yelling. Number two, they had to figure it out. And number three, they practiced it, so it becomes a part of them. Okay, now, number 5, with disciplining, there's a really cool thing. It's called negative positive principle. The way you can do something, like one time, if someone's sitting on something they shouldn't sit on, you can say, don't sit on that, negative. You can say, can you sit there instead, positive. Or you can say, sitting on that might cause it to break. And don't tell them what to do. Now all of a sudden they will choose the right thing to do and they'll do it for the rest of their life. Because you gave them the principle. And that applies with everything. Even in, like, let's say you want them to start prayer on time. You can say, don't miss the first rak'ah. Why do you always miss the first rak'ah? Negative. Start with the imam. Positive. Or you can say, the one who starts with the imam gets the most reward. A more perfect prayer starts with the imam. You're just planting seeds. They'll blossom a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later. Planting seeds. That's number 5. Number 6, the disciplining, private time. I'll let Amina
Wait,
talk
what
about.
was 5? 5 was try again.
5 was trying. Yeah. No, and number 1, we talked about the other one. Principled parenting.
Yeah.
Negative, positive principle. The Prophet ﷺ did that all the time in his hadith. You'll see it in the hadith. He always gave principles. When someone did something wrong or negative or something, he wanted to correct, he'd give a principle. And that's why all of his hadith, we have all these principles. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person does it from within their heart because they're convinced of the goodness of it. Okay, my time is up.
So we work at Entry, and one of, I think, the benefits of being at Entry and the benefits of being here is you guys are also a community, and you've all are going through something, have been through something, so leaning in and asking, what can I learn? I'm struggling with this. What did you do? So I learned a lot from Hina, was my predecessor, mashallah, and I've learned so much from her and her friends, and they're my role models. But I think 2 things that really changed the way I parent, and especially for my daughters, and it works for boys too, but I've only had experience with my girls because my boys are still younger. What I developed is, I think I started it when my daughter was around the age of 7. I told her, I sat her down and I said, I want to tell you about something that you can have with me called private time. And what private time is, it's a time for you to tell me anything, whether it's something you heard that you're confused about, whether you stole something, whether you lied to me about something, whether you hurt someone, whether anything. There is nothing you can tell me during private time that I will be shocked about, that you will get in trouble about. All we're going to do during private time is give you tools to fix whatever it is that you're struggling with. That's it. Just like, even if I tell you that I lied to you, I'm like, even if you tell me that you lied to me, even if you told me, God forbid, that you killed someone, you're not going to get in trouble with me. It's just here for that. And she's like, can I call it whenever I want? I said, you can call it whenever you want, and I will give you the time. If I'm cooking, if I'm in the middle of cooking, I will, fix that situation, and then I will give you my full attention. So it started, and the things that have come out from that are tremendous. What I learned is that kids carry a lot. They have a lot of confusion about themselves. They're trying to understand the world. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of lying that happens. And it's not like, it's somewhat like confession, but it's not, because they're getting tools. It's not just confess and you're forgiven. It's more like, give me the problem and let's find a solution. So my younger daughter started seeing this, and of course my 4-year-old would start calling private time, and her private time was like, my sister took this from me, or like, I want to talk about the clouds, but I honored it, and so much has come out of it. And sometimes, depending on the temperament of your child, one of my children, private time only works if I'm laying down next to her in bed and the lights are off and we're not making eye contact. And that can be especially true for boys. Boys don't like to make eye contact when they're being disciplined. In Alim Tree, the role I have that I inherited from Hina, whenever a child we have to deal with disciplinary issues at entry, I'm the one that steps in to talk to the child. And I noticed that if I sit across from a boy, I'm going nowhere. I have to either walk with them, and we're just both looking. You know, a great time to do this is in the car. But, you know, just depending on the temperament of your child, to just, you know, make sure that you don't have private time in the middle of a room. Make sure it has its right space. Another great tool I learned is the baggage. This is from Aisha. The heavy baggage. So heavy luggage. Sorry. So whenever my children want to know about something that they're too young to know about, like many topics, like for now it's like transgender, homosexuality. Maybe your 5 or 6 year old is asking about that, or you know, intimacy and all that stuff. So when they're around 6, 7 years old, again, I tell them, you know, when we're traveling or when I have a heavy suitcase, can you carry it? Would you carry it down the stairs? No, you're too young to carry it. So who carries it? Mama or Baba do. I said, just like you're too young to physically carry things, your heart and mind are also still growing, and they're too young to carry parts of this world. And there are parts of this world that you don't know about yet, but you're going to know about them. And I will tell you about them, or they might come to you. But they're heavy parts of this world. It doesn't mean they're ugly. It just means they're heavy and you're not able to carry them. And if they come to you at this age, they're going to hurt you because you're too young to hold them, you know, these realities. So what happens is my daughters will come to me, and if they had heard some, because of course you can't control what your children get exposed to, they come to you and they say, yeah, I think part of that world, the heavy part of the world has come to me, and maybe I need to talk to you about it. And my daughters will say, do you think I'm ready to talk about it? And I say, well, what is it? And they'll tell me, and I'll be like, oh, okay. You know, one of them is how are babies made, right? One of my daughters came to me at 9 years old saying, can I know how that happens? And I said, well, it's part of that heavy part of the world, and I don't think you're ready to hold it, but if you think you're ready, what do you think? And she's like, maybe I'll wait a little bit. I'm like, yeah. So, and then when I do introduce that subject to my kids, they're around 11, 12, depending on, you know, their maturity level. It's just, I sit them down and I say, okay, you're old enough to hold something now. So I'm going to unload something on you, and you're about to learn about a new reality of the world. And so, it gives them time to process. And the idea behind this is you don't have to be curious about things because you're going to know. It's not like it's a forbidden thing you're never going to know about. And I tell them, no matter what it is, as crazy as it sounds, I know. Because a lot of kids, the thing is, they feel that their parents don't know. Yeah. That, like, let's say a 9-year-old gets exposed to pornography. They might not come to a parent because like, there's no way my mom knows about this part of the world. So I tell them, there are parts of the world that are so crazy that you think I'm not going to know about. I know. So don't be worried. And if you get exposed to it, don't worry. It's not your fault, you know, because when a 9-year-old gets exposed to pornography, there's no way on earth an adult wasn't a part of that. Whether an adult put a screen in their hand, knowingly or unknowingly, whatever it is not your fault that you were exposed to something like this. It's the society's fault. So that really helped. So this heavy luggage really worked. And then my last thing is whenever I'm going to talk about any child, whether it's my own child or when I'm talking to a child in entry that, you know, we're dealing with their struggles, we're dealing with their mistake, what I realized is what really helps is to approach every mistake of a child with their strength rather than their weakness. So what I start with is I say, every human is born with strengths, and I like visualize it for them. I was like, this is your strength. But every strength is enveloped in some weaknesses. It doesn't matter what the strength is, and it doesn't matter what the weakness is. Every weakness is attached to a strength, and every strength is attached to the weakness. This is what temperaments are, context, personality, whatever it is. And I say, tarbiyah is the process of getting tools to peel back those weaknesses so that strength can shine. So let's say you have a child lies a lot. When I say, okay, you have a problem of lying, usually it comes from fear, but I'd say, mashallah, Allah has given you the strength of social awareness. You're very socially aware. You're so in tune with what people need that you're able to give them exactly what they need to hear. part of that strength is the weakness of that strength is the ability to manipulate, which is lying. You manipulate the truth, you manipulate this, you manipulate that. So don't waste that strength through its weakness, you know? So, and you can literally apply this to anything. A child who's always tattletelling, that's like the sunnah of, you have the strength of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. He was the just prophet. People who tattletale care a lot about justice. So, but the weakness of it is that you don't know how to apply it, you misapply it, you compare a lot. You're constantly looking at the weaknesses or negative of others, people who care about justice, right? So you have to, you give them the tools to be able to deal with that weakness. And what happens then is that they internalize the strength, not the weakness. They don't label themselves as I am this person, I'm a liar, I'm a thief, I'm a loser, I give up, I'm unintelligent, you know, whatever it is, you label it as a strength. And that, with my students and with my own children, has really had a profound effect, alhamdulillah. I mean, it's all from fadl Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But may Allah protect them. So those three things are from...
I'd share one more.
Sorry.
No, please, go ahead.
There's one more related to discipline that's really nuanced and very important, and it's the timing of advice.
Yeah, this is
Because
sunnah.
the timing of advice could make the advice fail or succeed, and can make what you're advising about seem they can fall in love with it or hate it. Like, for example, you want them to read Quran. Like, I once witnessed this. There are these teenagers, and we're going to go watch a movie. And they're excited, and they found the movie, and they're going to go to the theater, and it's like 10 p.m. And they're all excited, and they're walking out the door and everything. And then the dad comes in, and he's like, no, everyone sit down and read Quran.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm like, I was so cringing because now they're going to astaghfirullah al-azim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I going to say? Detest the Quran?
Yeah.
Like, astaghfirullah. Like, they're going to resent. Like,
Yeah.
And then he started mentioning like names of our teachers and scholars. Why can't you be like so and so? And I'm just like, like now they're going to hate the scholars. They're going to hate these scholars.
Yeah.
And so it killed me. So for example, flipping that, let's say they're doing a chore, they're mowing the lawn, they're cleaning the house, and they're so tired, they just want to be done with it. And they'd be like, okay, fine. You know what? Fine. You please let me just. Fine. You know what? Fine. Just go. I'll let you go read 5 pages of Quran. Yay! Yes. You know what I'm saying? So the timing of advice can be very critical in how they receive it and accept it. And sometimes we have to wait and pause advice until a moment and say it in a way and in a manner and in a timing where it becomes embraced and accepted by them. You know, our Prophet said, what's up with people? Why do they do this? You generalize it. You say it 3 weeks later about someone else. You tell them a story, so you plan it out. Oh, I heard you know such and such person, and they're not going to connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
But you plan the dots. You can even do it 6 months later, 3 months later. They won't connect the dots, but you were connecting the dots. And it has to do with that exact thing you want to share with them, but it's not demeaning them or belittling them. So the timing of advice is very important. And all of these things we're saying are very nuanced parenting things. I think some of the things that are so obvious are not being said, like don't give your child an iPhone.
Yeah.
Don't give your child a laptop.
Yeah.
Beware of public school. Like some of these very obvious things, we're not saying them, because,
Screen danger.
screen danger, and iPhone's
Doesn't
more
matter.
dangerous than a gun,
Yeah.
some of these things are more obvious, we didn't say them, but I just, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, no, mashallah. Thank you guys for that, mashallah, very comprehensive list. Lots of really great ideas there, mashallah. I just want to open up to, I know we're getting to that time when everyone's getting tired and it's been a long Tuesday, mashallah, but I want to give our audience some time to ask some questions, if you guys have any thoughts or questions. And also, if you guys feel like, there's anything additional to add to the list, inshallah, please go ahead and feel free to do
I
that.
wish I could redo it. Redo raising children. Just getting all the
some
good
great
advice.
kids.
The iPhone battle is increasing.
Yeah.
When it came in 2007, it seems like it was only 2007 when we got the iPhone it was a battle for teenagers, maybe 16.
No,
And
it's
then you
like
see
five.
14-year-olds have it, and now 9-year-olds are battling. Like they feel 9-year-old feels like they have the right,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's a comparison thing. So your sohbah, your family unit,
Absolutely.
and the extended village has to have those standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to be the unpopular, be willing to, like Mahdy said, be willing to say the no, and to constantly fight that battle, because it's like a loaded gun.
And model it as an adult, because
And
we're on our phones a lot too. You know, don't read your
Right.
Quran on your phone. Your kids don't know that you're doing that.
Mhm.
Pick up a mushaf and like don't read your books on your phone. Pick up a book. Go get it from the library. Kids, my mother, my elder lives with us. My mother lives with us, and it's so much easier for her to read Quran on the phone. And I actually requested from her. I was like, Mama, like a core memory I have is seeing my grandma read Quran. Just I was playing around that. It's like my kids don't know that's what you're doing when you're in the living room on the phone. So I asked her, I was like, please, can you read from the mushaf so that your grandkids can see you reading Quran, right? So do things, get off, for us, before we tell kids to not have a phone, we need to get off our own phones. You know, have no screen time in your house. Have like a no screen rule on the table for yourself before your kids.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice Imam Zaid gave when our kids were little, and we asked the question, back then we didn't have smartphones, but we asked about TV and movies and all that. And he said, expose your children to screen time, TV, in homeopathic doses.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you completely tell them absolutely not, you're not going to have it at all, then when they are around it, they go crazy. Like, you know, and I've seen that happen with other people's kids who weren't allowed it at all, not having self-control when they were around it. And then I had a friend who once, so we would do family movie night in our home. So there'd be no TV all week, but Saturday night as a family, we would have a movie that was approved and we would all watch it together. And I remember gradually over time, Zeeshan and I wanted our time to watch a movie, so we started like setting the kids up with their movie that we knew was okay for them to watch, and then Zeeshan and I would watch ours. And I remember my eldest son, in those days we had Borders in San Ramon, like Barnes & Noble, and they'd be open till 11 o'clock at night, midnight. And we used to often take the kids there to read books and get hot chocolate. And so one family movie night, Sean said to me, Mama, do you think we can go to Borders instead and read books and have hot chocolate? And I said, yeah, we could, but then you would lose out on your movie night, like the one movie you get to see during the week. Don't you want to have your movie night? And he said, yeah, but the whole point of movie night was that we would watch it together. But we're not doing that anymore, so we might as well just, let's go to Borders. And that's when I realized that it wasn't even the movie so much that was so attractive. It was the family bonding, the family time together. And then the other thing I would say with movies, a core memory of mine, is a friend that I, co-parented with. We raised our kids together. She one day called me, like, really upset, saying that, why do you let your boys watch these PG-13 movies? Because her kids weren't allowed to, and she said, and my boys tell me, well, the Mukhtars are allowed to, why can't we? And the Mukhtars are even younger than us. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, and I felt guilty, like, but then when we talked about it, she came to the conclusion herself. She said what she realized, the key difference was that the PG-13 movies that we allowed our kids to watch at 10, 11, was we watched it together so that we forwarded parts that weren't appropriate or explained things that might be too advanced.
Right.
Whereas she didn't watch movies. For her, she just needed a movie she could put on for her kids to watch and it'd be safe. So she wasn't there to help them filter it. So that was the key difference. It wasn't that I just let them watch PG-13 or rated R movies. So that's, again, getting your voice into your kids' heads and allowing them to learn how to decipher the world around them.
So I'd actually encourage that, even for the movies that are like the non-approved movies.
Yeah.
Like watch it with
them.
your children.
Talk about it.
Pause it, be like, you see what message they just planted in your heart?
Yeah.
You dissect the language, the hidden premise. You see what they just did to you? Oh my God, I didn't notice that. Yeah, see how they're controlling you? See how they put that music and they make this guy like this, and now you're supporting this villain, you want him to do this, and it's so haram and you support it and you love him and support him. Oh my God, I didn't know. So then you dissect it, and then you forward through these parts so you're modeling it. So, and then I encourage that. It's a teachable moment. And then there's a really cool service called VidAngel.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
VidAngel is
$10 a month.
amazing.
It's a really cool
Filtering service.
Yeah, filtering
It
service.
filters movies.
VidAngel and also mindfulmuslimreader.com,
Yeah.
this new website that Amira
Thank
and three of her close friends have come out
Mashallah.
with. It's an excellent website. Everybody should be using it to choose books for their children. It's called mindfulmuslimreader.com.
Yes.
And they've gone through years of reading books, mashallah, and choosing books that are worthy of reading to your children, with your children, come up with talking points. And if there's anything problematic, mentioning that, but not canceling the book out totally. They have very high standards for what makes for good reading, and so it's finally we have a website.
Mashallah.
mashallah.
I like
Thank
Common
you for
Sense
that.
Media as well.
Yes.
I think Common Sense Media is a really good tool also for parents to kind of filter some of the things that might be in media, mashallah. So any questions? No? Mashallah, good.
Is 14 too late to start the
That's when you
Might get
befriend
pitched back.
them. We can pitch back.
But the other methods still work. Like
Yeah.
it's never too late.
It's
like
never
planting these seeds, like watching movies together, for example,
Yeah.
talking about these
Doing
ideas,
friendship
having
things.
the one-on-one
Yeah.
trips, together. Like these, some tools work at younger ages, some tools work at older ages. So it's never too late. And then dua, Allah is the flipper of hearts, the turner of hearts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So if you're kind of midway in your parenting journey and you have some kids that are older, who've done some stuff wrong, and like obviously amazing advice and like instantly want to go and change 10 things, but how do you kind of like you just start modeling the newer, nicer practices and hopefully like hope that that's what over time gets reinforced, or do you have a conversation about it with your
Yeah, I think both. So there's two things on them. One is you model it for, if you start eating salads, your family will start eating salads a year later. So if you start exercising, your kids will start exercising 2 years later. So model it and have trust that it'll happen with the modeling. So that's that is part of it. Of course, dua. The conversation, if there's going to be a shift, the conversation can be beneficial, depending on framed positively and depending on the maturity of the child. But the conversation can, because it takes. It takes these ideas some time to marinate, and so sometimes when you state the idea, it helps the marination process, and that's even a method of our shuyukh, our teachers, where they'll share a hadith and they'll share something, and they'll wait a year or 2 or 3, waiting for that to blossom, so definitely like. A conversation of, we've been parenting this way where, where you were the boss. And, I don't think that's the best way to proceed. You know what I'm saying? And, and having the conversation, but finding the right words for it. Finding the right words. So both can be useful.
I mean, what surprises our kids is sometimes we just admit when we're wrong. So, having a parent that says, you know what, I wanted to do it this way, or this is the way I was doing it, and I'm fallible. I messed up, and I want to do it better. And these are the reasons. Maybe you let the kids watch an R-rated movie, and you can use Amira's heavy luggage thing. There's things in there that are part of this world that are going to confuse you. And, and so I'm sorry, and I'm going to do better, and I want you to help me do better. We're all on our journeys. And at the end of the day, it's not what you did wrong. It's that I need to guide you better. Right? I was not as good a leader. And so when they admit that, when they realize that you're fallible and you can make mistakes and you're human, then they can make the mistakes themselves and feel like they can come to you.
Yeah.
That trust is built.
That's right.
So
Trust.
it's a really
is so important.
paradigm shifting thing.
Yeah.
And when you apologize to your children, even for when you lose it, or when you don't have good adab with somebody else, your parent, or when you're overly strict, so I think that's a good thing
Yeah,
to do.
absolutely.
As long as it doesn't undermine the premise that
Right.
the parent is the boss.
Yeah,
The child's not the boss, because that's very
Yeah.
important,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah.
And one of the things we tried to do was like, Allah is our boss,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like
Authority,
recognizing that these things don't necessarily come from us, right?
Yeah.
And recognizing that we are on, like you said, on that journey as well, and that's where we're trying to align ourselves
Yeah.
with as well.
Yeah,
And so
there's a higher.
exactly.
And always say, we've been on the phone too long.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
all you can all say that. And I'm gonna be better, and I'm gonna do it. Our rule in our house was we don't engage with the internet behind closed doors. It's
Yeah.
always in public
Mhm.
spaces.
Yes.
So the kitchen table, whatever, even if we're on the phone, and there's a limit to it, you say, oh, I
Yeah.
can be better. So they'll see that, come from them, it'll be much more regulated.
Yeah.
And as they get older, just before I take this question, no charging of the phones in private bedrooms and not even using the phones as alarm clocks, getting a
Yeah.
real alarm.
Get a real alarm
So
clock.
that
Get the
They're
phones
not
out of the
dependent-
bedrooms.
yeah.
From
Yeah.
CVS, Rite Aid, they have the old-fashioned digital ones. You plug it in.
I'm actually a question, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm one of the older kids.
Okay.
I had 3 younger brothers. I was essentially a second mother. My daughter, she's 14. She has 2 younger brothers. My daughters, they're essentially second mothers. My older brother was essentially a second father to my 3 younger brothers. And the sibling relationship isn't momentary. It's a long-term relationship. When I had my kids, who took care of me? My brothers, right? So it's a give and take. There are times in the relationship where the elder is going to be giving to the younger, but there are times when the elder is going to be in need and the younger siblings step in, and it's really beautiful to watch. And it's not like they're paying their dues, but they are. But the only reason they're there for me, the only reason my brothers were there for me when I needed them as an adult, although they were like 15-year-old boys, is because they remember me doing that for them.
Absolutely.
So it's a long-term relationship. It's not a short-term relationship. And yeah, birth order is important, and it's okay,
Yeah.
There's a lot you don't have to teach your child by the mere fact that they have younger siblings. You don't have to teach them service. It's just going to happen naturally. So that's a blessing in disguise, really. It is that they have that responsibility.
The older one takes care of the younger one, the other one calls him Pai.
Yeah.
So even though
There's
they get
respect.
taken care of, they give respect. So,
Yeah.
it's part of life, there's a hierarchy. And then, again, I think we don't do it as much, but we've seen it as just the one-on-one time. Have the one-on-one time with your 18-year-old, the middle one, the
Oh, I
11-year-old.
love that.
Yeah.
And ask them these questions, and they'll tell you, we ask our kids, well, what could we have done better? And, definitely, they wanted to do more intramural sports on the weekends. I mean, what was that? Right? It was like they wish they could go football and baseball and soccer, outside. But we were building elm tree, we were working, so we didn't have that. So they gave us a pass. I mean, they knew, but these conversations are really important to see what they're going to do with their kids.
Absolutely.
Well, I love the one-on-one thing because when I moved here from Arizona 5 years ago, my daughter is in 6th grade here, and I realized she was going to 1st grade, and this is when I realized that certain things have changed in her life, and she was doing stuff behaviorally, not really what she used to do. Obviously, movie is a huge thing. And then the thing that came to my mind was I need to spend more one-on-one time with her. And with both of us, like my husband and I, specifically block some time every week just to spend with her. And alhamdulillah, within 6-7 months, I saw
Yeah.
A
saw
huge
the
difference.
change.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful gift to realize it and like work on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. MashaAllah.
It's always a good time.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for attending. Oh, yes, absolutely, sure.
When you're doing the private time
Mhm.
and your child confesses they lied to you or whatever, do you share that with your husband?
So there are times where my daughters will say, "Are you going to tell Baba?" And I will. So I do, but I don't tell them that I do. And now if my 14-year-old is doing that, it might be different. Like if she's talking about a boy, for example, I might not. I'll honor that. But if my 7-year-old is, she doesn't need to know that I'm telling her dad, because the trust here is, as long as her dad knows never to mention it in front of her, because that'll break. Because there's nothing more important than trust, both ways.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you know, I might not necessarily tell him every detail.
Hold on.
He's like, wait a minute. But we're on the same page.
Hold on. What's the drawback of sharing if a 14-year-old tells you something about a boy or something?
Oh, I mean, you share it, but you don't have to share the details.
So you do share it because I just,
Yeah, because we're a team.
No, I'm sharing this for the benefit of the conversation. I mean, I think sharing it with the spouse is the healthy move.
Absolutely.
Without the child knowing.
Yeah,
the child
Or
cannot
17 or 20 or 25.
Yeah. It's
think
like
both
an
parents
adult.
should know.
Yeah.
Assuming they're intelligent parents and wise
Yes.
parents and they're not gonna mess up with that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that communication obviously is really crucial. And then sometimes you do get support from your spouse because, you know, you find yourself stuck with what type of advice do I give, and whenever you're bouncing those ideas off of someone,
You get
it definitely has. But there's definitely times when, you know, you mull things over.
Wasn't there a story about some girl who used to write in a journal, but she knew her mom would read it?
Yeah,
I was
that was
gonna-
so
yeah.
beautiful. Please
Yeah,
share
I
because
was
that's
gonna
where I
share
actually
that.
got private time from.
Yeah.
For me, talking is easier than writing.
Yeah.
But
That was
besides
a friend of ours. She had a teenage daughter who was coming of age, and you know she wanted her to feel safe sharing things with her, but she knew her daughter had a hard time, so she got a journal, and she put the journal by her bed, and she told her daughter, "You can write anything you want in this, and then I will respond." And so she said her daughter would take the journal and she would write pages and pages of like whatever was going on with her and what she was struggling with, and then she would just put the journal back, and then the mom would read it. And then the mom would write her response back in it. And so she said days went by where the journal just went back and forth. They never talked about it in person, face to face, but it got addressed through this journal. I can say that with my sons, we've had some really deep conversations via text while being in the same house because they don't feel comfortable talking face to face about something. But we, you know, texting gives you a chance to look at how you're wording it, deleting it, editing it, then sending it.
You think slower.
Yeah, and so I thought that was a beautiful example. And then what Amira was saying with my boys, I saw exactly what you said, that some of our deepest conversations happen in the car when neither of us could look at each other, and some deep truths came out while staring at the road ahead. And,
the eye contact.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I'm getting is, subhanAllah, like our sense of autonomy as human beings. And we forget sometimes that, you know, our spouses have that autonomy and they make their decisions. And that our children have their autonomy and they make their decisions. And that as teachers and parents and households, all we can really do is create an environment. And we create that environment by our words, by the little things that we do, by the ambiance that we create, by the conversations that we have, by the things that we prioritize above other things. And so I think being mindful of like what our practices are, you know, we have our coach at the school is a personal trainer, and I was talking about eating healthier, and he said, "Are you mindful of what you're eating?" And now that I'm thinking about it, there's so many things that you eat where you're not even thinking about it. And so our daily actions are really like an accumulation of all these little things that we do that we're on autopilot, where we're not pausing and thinking. We might be on our phones without even recognizing that we're on our phones, or we might have certain reactions that we might not even think about. So I think one of the major things that I'm kind of taking from, you know, this dialogue is that we all have that sense of autonomy, and we all make our decisions, and our children are going to make their own decisions. And ultimately, the thing that we can do as parents and the responsibility that we have is to provide that kind of sense of space for them. To create that.
Regarding that ambiance, like safe space, you know, the timing of the advice. It's prophetic in the sense where Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our prophet, in a beautiful way, where would overlook mistakes and flaws, and he would accept every excuse of anyone who gave him an excuse. Even if he knew it was a wrong excuse, false excuse, or a lie of a misuse. He would accept it.
Yeah.
Why? Because it maintains the dignity of the relationship,
Exactly.
Yes,
which is more
absolutely.
important than that specific mistake in the
Mhm.
heart, right?
Yeah.
So it
absolutely.
maintains the relationship,
Mhm.
overlooking that particular flaw.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's called taghaful or tajahul in Arabic, overlooking and creating that space. And if something would break, if someone made a mistake, our Prophet ﷺ would say, "Kada qada."
Yeah.
Kada qada. That's how it was decreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or he would say, إنه دعوه فإنه في كتاب مقدر. Let him be, because this was in a book written.
SubhanAllah.
So now in our house, someone makes a mistake, someone makes the child, the 4-year-old, is saying, كذا قضى.
So what do? You slap them, and you're like, "Kada qada." No, but yeah, no slapping. But may Allah protect them. Yeah, no, that's absolutely really important. Yeah.
Islam just has to work. It has to
Yeah.
work in the home.
Yeah.
Has to work in the relationships. Show them the beautiful aunts and uncles, relationships, marriages that work.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you're being prophetic, and then inshallah, that's when they have a chance.
Absolutely.
You know, and
Yeah.
so that,
Dua
that
first
we have to
Yeah.
do it and ask Allah to help you
Yeah.
be that person that
Yeah.
they can look up
Absolutely.
to. Because,
Inshallah.
my 2 sons went to a class, a social studies class, and they tell the story is that the professor told everyone to raise their hands up. He said, put your hands down if your parents are in a happy marriage. And half the hands went down. Okay, so half the hands were up. And now put your hands down if your parents like what they do for work. And all the hands went down except
No,
My-
Pete, put your hands down if your parents don't like what they do.
don't like what they do.
And
Right.
they all put
They
their
all
hands
put their hands down. So there are 4 hands up in the class. It was my 2 sons, alhamdulillah, from Allah. And then Fatima and Noor, of another family in San Ramon, their 2 daughters, and we know their parents, that they both have a happy marriage, and alhamdulillah, that both parents like what they do for work.
Yeah.
So we're in a society where, look, how many people are really, really struggling. And these are college-age children making this statement about their parents and their situation, their marriages and what they do, whether they're happy.
Yeah.
So this is how the odds are against us. But mashallah, I look at this religion and I do that story. I'm like, mashallah, 2 Muslim homes in San
Yeah.
Ramon,
Alhamdulillah.
right?
Yeah.
And we know the
Absolutely.
quality of the other 2 parents and
Yeah.
how they parent Fatima and Noor.
Absolutely.
So it's a very, very, alhamdulillah, we're so blessed to have this religion
Absolutely.
and the prophetic example
Yeah.
and the parents and how we share each other. I learned so much today.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair
Yeah.
for having this fireside chat
Oh,
That's
alhamdulillah.
amazing.
initiative
Alhamdulillah.
and I really
Yeah.
could see
Yeah, Islam, we were taught Islam's good for our akhirah, which it absolutely is. But we forget that it's actually excellent for our dunya.
Mhm.
Islam is for dunya just as much as it is for your akhirah. It gives you a happy dunya and a happy afterlife. Happy life and happy afterlife. Not a difficult life for a happy afterlife.
Yeah,
That's like that's Christianity, right? That's their version of religion. Suffer for, that's not ours. It's Allah gave us the recipe for a healthy life so we can have a healthy afterlife.
I mean, on that note, pre-Islam, they were burying their daughters alive,
Yeah.
right? And I just visited that graveyard. I
Oh,
visited the graveyard a few days
Yeah.
ago where they buried their daughters alive.
Oh my God.
It's still preserved.
Yeah.
And then our Prophet ﷺ came, and when his daughter would walk in the room full of men, he would stand up, walk to her, hold her hand, kiss her on the head, bring her and say, sit in my seat, sit in my spot.
What an honor.
And on his way home from a journey, he would visit his daughter's home before he would go to his own home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, these are part of parenting, where you make your daughter feel special.
Yeah.
You make your son
You
feel
honor.
special.
Yeah.
You're my partner, you're my buddy. I love being with you. I love hearing you this. So you make them feel like you love their presence, How special did Sayyidah Fatima feel with her father? He would remember her when they had bread and some meat. He made a sandwich and said, take this to Fatima. She hasn't had this in a long time. He would send her food. How special did she feel? And so we can also, when we get that, that donut with the ice cream inside, send it to our daughter. Never had this before. You know what I'm saying? And then she'll feel so special. I want to take you out to a donut filled ice cream filled donut, you know? Really? And say that's sunnah.
I'd say that's sunnah. We're going to practice sunnah, go out for ice cream.
My two favorite
And on the ice cream, I know it's 9 o'clock. So here's my farewell. You know, if you forget everything else, just remember this. One day, as a parent, I want you to have a Haagen-Dazs dinner.
Yeah.
Right? So I want you to get like 10 pints of Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
Okay, flip them all upside down. Okay, and in one big bowl. And then I want you to get like all this like chopped up strawberries and mangoes or kiwis, something, put it on top. And then get all these M&Ms and nuts and chocolate syrup and caramel and whipped cream and everything, put it on top, and make this mountain of ice cream. And then get whoever's there in your house, 5 spoons, 7 spoons, 10 spoons, and say, all right, guys, it's dinner time, and bring them all, and put the spoons all around and say, let's have dinner. Everyone's like, what? Oh, what's the score? And then you guys all have dinner, and everyone gets 2,000 calories. And that's it, you know? And it becomes a memory for the family.
Yeah.
Building those moments.
Yes.
One day, take them out of school early dismissal.
Yeah.
Trust me, that's not going to affect their college or their career.
Yeah.
Take them out of school early, take them out early, and then take them out and just be like, I'm taking you out to lunch
Yeah.
because I miss you in love.
I
They
have
won't
a
forget
yeah,
that for
principal's
the next 10,
cut
20,
day.
30 years.
Principal. Oh.
where I cut school with my kids one
Yeah.
day.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I mean, that's important.
Take
Yeah.
them out to lunch, take
Yeah.
them out to ice skating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take you out ice skating.
Well, one of my strongest memories is I'm from SoCal, OC, is when my mom drove past our school exit and exited to Disneyland.
Just kept going.
I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
You know, one thing
That
I'll
was
say
amazing.
is it really does go
Yeah.
by so
Yeah,
fast.
it goes by
And
so fast.
things that I feel like we just did yesterday now are childhood memories for our kids.
Yeah.
And it really, really hit me when I heard them talking to their friends about favorite memories from childhood. And to me, it's literally like, I feel like I could find it on my calendar on my iPhone, like
Yeah.
when we did that.
Yeah.
And so it does, they say in parenting, the years are long, the days are long, but the years are short. And
100%.
it's so true. It's
Yeah,
so true.
that's so
impressive.
Enjoy it. inshallah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Can we do a closing dua? Inshallah? Thank you.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد. ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. ربنا هب لنا من الصالحين. ربنا هب لنا من لدنك ذرية طيبة انك سميع الدعاء. Ya Allah, we can't raise our children. You can raise them. Ya Allah, we can't control their hearts. Ya Allah, we can't control their adab or their character. Ya Allah, we can't mold them, but you can. Ya Allah, we turn to you as desperate parents, as desperate community, in desperate times, in difficult, trying, confusing times, Ya Allah. Begging you, Ya Allah, to protect our children, Ya Allah, from atheism and agnosticism and all the other crazy ideas. رَبِّ نَجِّنِي وَأَهْلِي مِمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. As Sayyidina Lut said, Ya Allah, protect me and my family from what they do. Ya Allah, رَبِّ نَجِّنِي وَأَهْلِي مِمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab. We ask you, Ya Allah, to protect our teachers and our scholars, Ya Allah, and reward them and their families and their children, Ya Allah. We ask you to take care of our children, Ya Allah, and give us wisdom, Ya Allah. Wisdom is from you. And Ya Allah, don't let us be arrogant, Ya Allah. Let us use our tongue with wisdom, Ya Allah, to help our children grow and navigate this world beautifully, Ya Allah. And surround our children with good friends. Surround them with righteous companions that take them to Jannah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, and give them righteous spouses, Ya Allah, that take them to Jannah and give them ease in this world and the next world and protect them from the torment of the hellfire, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, here we are gathering, Ya Allah, and Ya Allah, whoever walks to you, you run to them. Here we are walking to you for the sake of our children, for the sake of their futures, and our grandchildren. Ya Allah, we're scared for our grandchildren. Ya Allah, we're frightened for our grandchildren and their children, Ya Allah. Protect all of our progeny, make them happy in this life and the next, make them from the awliya, make them of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. Help us reflect the Muhammadan character, SalAllahu alayhi wasallam. Ya Allah, we thank you and bless this school, Ya Allah, and bless this community, and bless the organizers, and the volunteers, and the leaders, Ya Allah, and the followers, and the supporters, and the patrons, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we turn to you and we ask you for everything good that our dear leader, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu asked you for, and we seek protection from every harm we sought protection from. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيد المرسلين الصلاة والسلام عليك يا خاتم النبيين الصلاة والسلام عليك يا من أرسلك الله رحمة للعالمين رضي الله تعالى عن أصحاب رسول الله أجمعين الفاتحة.